Welcome to the Cabin Culture Podcast, where we spend a little more time diving deeper into all the fun parts of cabin culture. We like to think of this as both a material and imagined expressions of how cabin lovers, dwellers, builders, and designers wish to live a more simple and authentic life. Today, we're joined by Kitty Costello, a design enthusiast and short-term rental consultant who brings a refreshingly authentic approach to creating spaces that tell a story. After relocating from Silicon Valley to Maine's magical Mid-Coast in 2022, Kitty has embraced the local culture and channeled her natural design instincts into helping vacation rental owners transform ordinary spaces into memorable experiences. Today, we'll explore how Kitty and her business partner Jen are reimagining the Airbnb landscape in Maine, one thoughtfully designed property at a time. From her philosophy that DIY is the holy grail of getting to know yourself, to her fearless approach of breaking design rules, Kitty shares insights on creating spaces that reflect personality while making guests feel truly welcome. Whether you're curious about navigating the current challenges in the short-term rental market, finding your authentic design voice, or simply understanding what makes Mid-Coast Maine hospitality so special, this conversation offers both practical wisdom and inspirational ideas. Plus, we'll dive into some hot topics like property labels, pet-friendly policies, and the delicate balance of making a space feel personal without being intrusive. Get ready for a joyful, heartfelt discussion about creating vacation rentals that guests don't want to leave, and how sometimes the most memorable design choices come from being brave enough to try something different. Let's do it. Okay, Kitty, I feel like I should tell people how I found you and how
Oh, you do?
because
Okay.
this is the least planned, most spontaneous podcast episode we've had in a while. But I followed Renovation Husbands, who a lot of you may know, for, I don't know, years, even before they bought a place in Maine. But of course, I became even more deeply invested when they bought a place in Maine. Yeah, so I've been following them for ages, and then they put out a reel like a week ago that you were in, and it was hilarious. And I literally
Thanks.
commented, I was like, okay, I don't know who Kitty is, but I really want her to be involved in all my DIY projects from now on.
Yes. No, it was like a really funny thing because they're just my buddies. And we were just having, happy hour one night and I wallpaper everything like right up there.
Yeah,
And so they were finishing the suite and they
yeah.
they asked me, they're like, do you think you could give us some pointers? And I was like, for sure, I'll come. And then they're like, do you mind if we do a reel? And I was like, it's fine, it's totally fine. And so I just went over there actually just as my friends, and like they are so fun that you forget you're mic'd. There were 3 iPhones on us, like it was totally like a sound
That's
stage
so good.
almost, but it just was us hanging out. It was really fun.
So did
So
you know them before they bought the place in Maine, or did you meet them when they
no.
came to Maine?
Yeah, so we moved to Maine in 2022. My good friend Barb, she was like, "You gotta meet these. You gotta find these guys. They just bought a place in Maine." I wasn't following them, and I started following them for their Boston place.
Yeah.
And we just met one night through mutual friends, and just hit it off. And so for me, I just feel like they're just my friends, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you guys are kind of famous,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're just really deserving. They work super, super hard. So
Oh my
yeah,
God. I think about
yeah,
that all the time, the amount of work
yeah.
they're putting in. Okay, so if you're listening to this and you don't know Stephen and David, the Renovation Husbands, you should immediately go follow them because it is, I mean, I've just never seen someone take content creation more seriously in a
Right,
more joyful way. Like it just
exactly.
feels really organic. But as a professional videographer watching them, I know I'm like, oh, you have camera set up here. You have cameras.
Oh yeah,
What? Like they just
like
take it so
really fancy
seriously.
microphones,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
they take it seriously, and it
mhm,
shows in the way that it reads as effortless but so thorough, and you just feel like you're
mhm.
there for their whole renovation. So if you're into DIY stuff, anyway, they're also just like lovely humans, which makes it
They
even,
really are.
it makes you
Yeah.
want to root for them. I'm gonna meet them next week when we're up,
Oh,
and
good,
you should
good.
come join us.
Oh my gosh, I
We're
would
gonna
love
be up,
it.
yes, we're gonna
Yes.
be up next week, and we're driving up to do a podcast with Hideaway Maine. and
Okay.
then we're gonna
They're my
drive
buddies
to
too.
see them.
I love
Yeah.
those two.
Oh
Yeah.
my god. I just wanna fill the podcast with people from Maine, and you know what? It's my podcast, so I can do that if I
You can
want
do what
to.
you want. You
That's
can
right.
do what you want.
Oh my gosh, we should all hang out. I'm very excited.
Yeah. I'll
Um,
creep in and just sneak in under the stairs and
or just
be
come
like,
hang
"Oh,
out.
Kitty's here." Oh, I'll
Yeah.
just come hang out. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, but now I wanna talk about you, and I loved
Yeah.
reading your
Thanks.
pre-interview form, and that has guided everything we're gonna talk about. But first, before we
Yes.
dive into the content, on our last podcast episode, we had this great conversation about how we measure success, like specifically within short-term rentals, and we tend to measure it by
Mhm.
occupancy and revenue and profit margins and all of that. And we were like,
Right.
"But if our values aren't necessarily around the money side of it, then how do we start measuring success in
Right.
ways that are less quantifiable, but maybe more important?" So I want to start by asking you before we start, if you were to measure the success of this podcast episode slash our
Oh.
conversation, how would you want to measure it? What do you hope that people will get from this? What would be a successful conversation for our listeners?
For you and me. Let's see. Honestly, when you asked me to do this, I was like, do I have anything to, add to this? But because you just have this really natural way about you, I've seen a few, especially since we connected. Um, but you know what? This to me, I feel like you're doing the work to show like regular people are doing regular stuff on their own. It's funny, it can be disastrous, it can be
Mhm.
so, so successful. And
Mhm.
mostly it's just fun. And I'm really big. I kind of let you know, like, I'm just really big on making something really comfortable for other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And whether that's like they come to my house or I make their place like that. I think we're all succeeding. Yes, the money is super
Yeah.
important, all that stuff. Like, are we giving people a really good experience and leaving a little bit of ourselves in a space,
Yeah.
which I am not like an ego about it, but I just feel like I would like it if people knew, like, Kitty put these in here because she knows I would like this or feel really
Yeah.
comfortable right away.
Yeah.
And that's always been my deal with my house, with other people's houses, and just people. So
I love that. Okay.
thanks.
For me, I think this podcast will be successful if people leave feeling, this is based on what I know about you from what I've read, but
Okay.
I think if
Okay.
people leave feeling like really confident in what they're doing already and empowered to try things that are a little bit different and push
Hmm.
themselves a little bit outside their comfort zone, I think that will be successful for them. So that's the
Yeah.
direction that I'm
Doing
hoping.
hard things. Doing hard things.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes
I
hard things are physically hard, like putting up wallpaper, which you do with such
oof.
skill. But some things are less physically hard and more vulnerable, or, well, we'll get into that because I have a couple
Yeah.
questions about
Okay.
things that I think will make it hard, not emotionally, but just different than the physically hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so where I want to start, I think, is a little bit about you. And you said, I love taking care of people. My
Hmm.
two daughters are an inspiration for most of what I do. They're
Yes.
hilarious and gorgeous inside and out. And Kitty, I
Yes.
have to be honest, I'm at the age 40 where I've had the debate for like the last 10 years. Do I want to have kids? Do I not want to have
Hmm.
kids? And I'm
Yeah.
watching everyone around me go through the really hard things, and all I hear are how hard it is. So the way that you wrote about your daughters was like a glimpse of, oh, but there's so much joy there. Can you start by telling us about your daughters?
Yeah. So my oldest Nina is 23. And we had her, we weren't exactly totally ready. We were married, a year and a half. My husband was finishing a degree. She just was like coming to town, that was it. And that's been who she is. She arrived on her due date. I was like, this kid's like organized from the very beginning. And she's just a really unique person, super, super bright, and she's the most creative person in our family for sure.
Mm,
um, so she just inspires me because she can pick up pretty much anything and start doing it.
yeah.
She's a writer, lives in New York City, and she's just cool as can be. Annie, our
Mhm.
youngest, came 7 years later. We totally planned her, and she's like the fun in our family. She makes things really, really fun. Everybody loves her,
Mm,
and she inspires me every day to just like, let's just make this a little bit lighter.
I
And
love
that's
that.
so having kids is, I mean, no joke, it's really hard. It's expensive. It's a bunch of things that are it's a marathon,
Yeah.
but these two girls are so, so lovely, and I'll start crying if I talk
Mm.
about it anymore.
I love when you view them as, like, so different, but, like, here's what they both offer me or push me and challenge
Oh,
me in
yeah.
different ways,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Like Nina, I'm like, I'm
Mm,
not as smart as her. I don't even know what she's
mm,
talking about right now. And Annie and I are just like the best. We just volley jokes all day long. So
yeah.
it's,
Ugh.
yeah. Mhm.
I call that the J factor. In teaching,
Yeah.
there was a technique called joy factor, and it was the thing I was best at in the classroom because I'm an Enneagram 7.
Yes.
But it was thinking about sometimes joy happens organically, but sometimes it
Hmm.
doesn't, and we have to be
Yeah.
intentional about creating it. And I think that makes sense here too. Like DIY is not always easy, and so how can you make
Mm-mm.
it joyful along the way?
No, and I like for them, I just want them to see their mom like doing hard things. I'm always willing to try. I get super dirty every day. Like there's just a million things that they're like, Mom can do it. I know she
Yeah,
can. And that's
yeah.
like, yeah. So,
Yeah. My husband gets a little frustrated with me about that because he is, like, professionally, he does home improvement stuff,
oh, okay.
and he's like, "I
Okay.
don't know why you're insisting on hanging those curtains, like, I can do it better than you," and
Oh.
it's because of my mom. And he's right, his
Oh,
will be better,
cool.
mine will be a little bit shaky, but my mom always did everything just like, "No, I can
Yeah.
just do it," and I have that now of that, like, "Sure, you can
Yeah.
do it better, but I can do it right now by myself without you."
Yeah. Oh, a big, big part of like everything I know how to do is because I was way too impatient to let anybody like to wait for them to help me, show me how to do it. Thank God, the internet exists. You can just
Yeah,
be like, oh, I'm going to figure out how to put oil in
yeah.
this weird car I have. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know.
When did you first
Hmm.
start? Because 'Cause you've been doing it for a while, and now you also run a business where you help other short-term rental
Hmm.
owners, um, up their design. We're gonna dive into that, but when did you
Yeah.
first start, and how did that happen?
We bought a really old house from 1890 when we lived in St. Paul, Minnesota,
Mm,
and we didn't have any money. And we bought this total jalopy of a house, and we just had to figure out how to do stuff. And my husband is naturally inclined, he just doesn't like to do it.
yeah,
I just likes, and I really like to do it. And then I'm like, I don't even know how to do it. Um, so I started on that house and I literally painted every room like six different times. And it was just me learning what I liked, to be
yeah.
honest. That house was my practice house. But even when I was a
Mm,
kid, I like wallpapered with my dad. My dad did all of that stuff. He was like a super businessman, but on the weekends, he was like a weekend warrior guy, yard
yeah,
work, everything. I
yep,
did learn to wallpaper from him. Um, the other thing is I just got in the business of houses, and that in itself just makes you look at things like how something's done poorly or
yep,
something's done really well, or what makes people light up in a certain space. And my friend Jen, I we do the redo the Airbnbs. It's like she's super inspiring because she adds the extras. Like I like to do the hard, like, okay, we're gonna put wallpaper up. She adds like all the really like perfect little extras. So I
it's
just,
so hard. It's
learn from over. Oh my God, she's got such a great eye.
yeah.
And it helps me just complete the look. So
Yeah, I love that. You also described it as DIY as the holy grail of getting to know yourself. Fearlessly
it is.
try things, you'll get unsolicited advice anyway. You can most of the time always redo it and you'll get a great
Yes,
story out of it. And I've
it's
never
true.
thought about it like that, the holy grail of getting to know yourself.
Yeah, you're like, okay, can I do this till midnight? I mean,
Yeah,
the husbands were telling me that they were wallpapering that night till midnight. I'm like, that's what you kind of got to do. I'm going to
right.
get this done, and
Yep.
so you do find your tolerance for pain,
Yeah.
mental and physical, and just who you really are, your determination for
Yeah.
sure. Like, I'm just very determined,
Yes.
and it's annoying, I'm sure, to some people. So,
Yeah, but I think it also is probably very inspiring. I was running this weekend with a friend who was talking about resilience
yeah.
and where and how we experience resilience and begin to embrace it as something that we are, right? And then
Hmm.
and then who that we might know doesn't have that same resilience. And it was interesting because I reflected on it and I was like, I don't think people often even see the resilient moments. They see you doing hard things and they're like, oh, cool, you did that thing. But it's just because of those moments where you could have given up and you never did. And DIY
Mhm.
and just trying it yourself kind of forces you into lots of resilient moments.
Yeah, and it's so great to do a reel, and it's really satisfying to watch someone like get through the whole process, and you're watching it in 20 seconds, and
Yep.
all the chunks that got taken out of those videos.
Yep.
And so I think in a lot of people's mind, they're like, oh, it's just sort of magic. It all comes together. There are so many unbeautiful stages to
I know.
making something, but it is kind of like I can push through a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I like to do it.
Yeah. The
I've
thing
found
with
that part about myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is like there's so many different niches on social media, right? There's like the
Yes.
DIY niche and you find traps within that. There's the cabin niche. And I
Yes.
feel like the speed is a really common trap of the home improvement niche because you
Hmm.
have to put out content, but like the actual content, not the real, but the actual process of redoing a primary bedroom suite could take you months, and yet you
Oh,
have to do
they're
one of these
on
reels,
months.
like, every
Yeah.
day to grow and be successful?
Yeah, it's a little daunting, to be honest. And some days I'm like, is this stealing the joy of this process? But at the same time, I'm like, but I'm doing this to inspire myself. And then maybe
Yeah,
someone's gonna think this is funny or crazy, or and the
right.
unsolicited advice piece is real. But honestly, that's in everything we're
Yep,
doing. And you know what to filter out and what
yeah.
to, you
Mm,
know.
do we?
Hmm.
Especially as women. I feel like I
Oof.
remember
Yeah.
during the build, every single thing I shared, I'd get comments, and, I did not have that many followers then, but every time it's like, "Oh, your ladder is at the wrong angle," or, "Are you sure that's the siding you wanna use?" Or, "Why is your, wood stove" and it's just like, goodness gracious.
Yes, I know. I
So
drive a vintage car, and let me tell you, I get stopped all the time. First of all, by women, they're like, "Oh my God, I had one of those. I love it so much. I
mm,
miss it." And then I get stopped by the mansplainers that are like, "You know what? You shouldn't be, X, Y, or Z." I'm like, ugh,
mhm,
I just
mhm.
need a car. It's
Yeah,
actually just my car. It's not,
yeah. We don't need to have a whole conversation about it.
No, it's not stored in the wintertime. Like, it's just my car. That's it.
Yeah.
So
What kind
yeah,
of vintage car is it?
it's a little Volkswagen Bug.
Oh,
Mhm.
nice.
And
Classic
I
vin
drove it all winter, and people were like, "You're nuts." And
in
yeah,
Maine.
I was. Yeah, I know, I know. There were some days I couldn't go anywhere, but yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
My dream is a vintage Bronco, that's why I had to ask. If I ever
Oh,
win the lottery, that will be
yes.
the sign that I won, will be my vintage
Yes,
Bronco.
there will be signs. Yeah, I like
That will
those
be
things.
it. All my friends know if we ever see a vintage Bronco, I'll never be able to afford that
She
on my
won the
own, but
lottery. I
it's
see.
really that and dog rescue are the 2 reasons that I
Oh,
play
yeah,
the
yeah,
lottery.
yeah.
Because I'm like, this probably isn't the best use of my money, but if I win, I can go into dog rescue full time and I can buy a vintage Bronco.
Yes, fill it with dogs.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
yes.
Okay, for those outside of Maine, can you share a little bit about Mid-Coast Maine? And you described it as Mid-Coast hospitality, which I thought was fascinating because I've
Mhm,
seen that as like Midwest hospitality, but I've never seen someone say Mid-Coast hospitality.
mhm.
Explain Mid-Coast Maine and the hospitality side to folks who don't know Maine.
Yeah, I mean, so, we were wanting to live somewhere on the coast. We looked many, many towns. Start in Portland, and we looked to Belfast and Searsport. But we were lucky. We found the right house for what we needed, right smack in the middle of Mid-Coast Maine.
Mm,
It's so charming. It has a fantasy quality to it. I see tourists in the summer, like literally walking around, like, I could live here. I could do
yeah,
this. I
yeah,
could sell all my stuff and
yeah,
like figure this out. And so the hospitality here is so beautiful because it's sort of like, yeah, you could. We all have figured out a way to do it.
right.
You got to have a bunch of crazy jobs, but the reality is like they kind of make it really special, but really approachable.
Yes.
And possible. Like, if
Yeah.
anything, like the hospitality here is like, we're going to make this possible for you to maybe do this too. The
Yeah.
more the merrier is what I say. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so many cool people here and so many people that are trying really hard to like make things nice for other people,
Yeah.
you know?
Now
Yeah.
you said you only moved there in 2022. So
Mhm.
where were you before, and did you have a connection to Maine, or was it just did you go there on vacation, look around, and say, "I
I
could
was one of
come,
those
I
people.
could"
I was just telling you. No, we lived in California. We lived in Silicon Valley for 10 years. My husband had a job in tech, and I sold real estate, and it was just a
Oh,
beast of a decade. We were both very worn out by it. Super nice people, but also a very different type of person.
yes.
Um, so my husband kept Maine just kept popping up on on his radar. He's like, I think we should think about Maine. And Annie, our youngest, was going to start high school. And the schools here are just really good, like
Yeah.
just good public schools. Um, and so we came out here and we visited, and I was like, if we don't find something, I don't know what I'm going to do if I can't live in Maine. And so
You
we
were
plotted
sold.
it
You were like,
out.
"This is the way life should be."
This is it. Yes, that slogan. And honestly, when we pulled up to the town we live in, I just like had a very strong reaction to like, I don't know what I got to do, but I'm going to do it to get here.
Yeah.
And so we were those pandemic buyers. We
Yeah.
bought it in 2020, bought it without seeing it. I mean,
Mhm.
and I mean, I'm in real estate, and I was like, that's not advised. And so it just was the perfect kismet situation because the sellers really needed to stay in the house, and we weren't ready to move yet. And Annie was going to start high school in a couple years. So it just kind of all lined up. We're supposed to come here, is really what I'm trying to say. So,
Yeah.
but no, I'm not even remotely a Mainer. My parents were East Coasters, but I never went to Maine. I went to Connecticut, when we'd come out and see
Mhm.
them, or upstate New York.
And
But
Mainers
Maine
are very
was,
particular about what it takes
uh-huh,
to be a Mainer. It's like 8
I know.
generations or something? Might not be that much.
Something.
It's like
I don't know. But yeah, I do not ever pretend to say I am a Mainer. So I'm a new Mainer person. I don't know what you call us, but
I kind of like the idea I've embraced. So my grandpa is considered a Mainer, but I don't think
okay.
that includes me a Mainer. I've never lived there full time. I actually think Mainer by choice is like it's kind of like friends are family by choice. You weren't born into it, but
Right.
you found it and loved it and identified with it and made it
Mhm.
yours. And I think there's something powerful to that. Maybe even more so than birthright, though most people in Maine might not agree with me, but
Well, I think the from away thing, I don't really know if that's really, really a thing anymore. It has a standoffish quality to it. And honestly, everyone I've met here that is a Mainer, they are the nicest people. And
yeah,
I think as far as New England goes, there's a real charming, sweet way about people in Maine, and they've been really, really nice to
yeah,
all of us, that because pretty much my whole group of friends were not from here. So
yeah, yeah.
um I don't know.
So there you go,
I'm
folks. Come
happy.
visit
Yeah.
Maine. If you haven't
Come
been
visit
there,
Maine.
why
Yes, it's
not?
very, very pretty. There's room
Yeah,
for everyone. It's in a ginormous state.
it
Yes.
is. And there is a lot of room left, which is not the case in a lot of places.
No, I
So
know.
you said that people, when they move to Maine, especially mid-coast, like, might have to put together some different jobs to make it work.
Yeah.
Did you dive straight into real estate? Did you dive straight into design and vacation rentals? How did your current
Mhm.
state come to be?
So my husband and I had started a design company out in California that was just a weekend thing. And he is a machinist by trade, but is an artist, definitely. And so our whole plan was like, let's move the business and really go for it out in Maine. And so we have done that, and he does that. But I'm an antsy person, and I just had to kind of get back into houses. I had
Mm,
kind of a rough winter last winter, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And I was really frustrated with, what I wanted. And it's just like, I just always want to get back into houses. So
yeah.
I just got my main license. I'm still licensed in California. And I started the Airbnb thing with Jen last October. And man, I everything it's where I'm supposed to be. So,
Yeah.
a little, but then yeah, I mean, I have like a few jobs. So,
Yeah. When you started this with Jen, what problem were you
mhm.
seeing in the Airbnb market? And like what perspective did you have on Airbnbs prior? I mean, obviously you have a lot more now. You're consulting with tons of hosts
Yeah.
to do that. But prior to that, what was the problem that you all sat around talking about and you were like, I think we can solve this?
It's like your place, the Cozy Rock. It's like, the renovation husband's house. It you I feel like Airbnb was missing. A lot of places were missing that a thematic, like a
Mhm.
whole experience thing.
Mhm.
Everywhere they turn, there's something really cool. I think it was for so long just like, yeah, just rent your house out, fill it up with garage sale furniture. And like, there's
Yep.
nothing wrong with garage sale furniture, but like, get it to mean something,
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah.
And so Jen and I were like, you know what? If we can help people refresh the space, turn it into a destination, they can do better rates wise, booking wise.
Yep.
And then we manage the whole thing. So we sort of just take it off their hands. They're like, guys, just do whatever you want to do. They give us, a decor retainer, and we stick to their budget for sure. But it was that piece that's just like, we can do better with some of these rentals.
Yeah.
They can look like special little inns if you really
Yeah.
want them to
Yes,
be.
that's a good
Yeah.
description.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go detailed on some of these questions. I know myself and my instinct is to say high level and like think how do we think about things, but I also know that detailed stuff is helpful to folks. So,
Yeah.
on your website you said we design vacation rentals that maximize revenue and stand out from the crowd. So I
Hmm.
think for a lot of hosts from what I've heard doing like one-off consulting is that it can be hard to distinguish between what's nice to have and like, oh, this would be a treat for guests and the things that will truly show an ROI or maximize revenue. So how do you all think about this when designing?
Well, we usually go into the space, and it totally depends on the location, obviously. We think about like, would someone want to stay here more than one night?
Yeah.
Probably, if we
Yeah.
do this, this, and this. So we look to the host, the owners, say, is it in your best interest to have, no minimum stays, or do you want people to like book this for a whole week? Well, usually everyone's all over the board. And I've heard you talk about, the minimum stay thing. We kind of go back and forth about it.
So hard.
Um, it is so hard. But what is always our goal is make this so they feel like we just were getting it ready for just them. And it
Yeah.
and the owners, the hosts are always like, yeah, okay, let's do that. And it really isn't a big deal. We're not putting like $25,000 into these properties. Sometimes
Right.
we're putting like, two to five thousand
Yeah.
dollars in, and you can't believe what, like, let's paint the walls, let's get it on a couch,
Yeah.
just these little things. So that has helped, especially one property in particular. It is so cute and adorable, and we're able to get the rates way higher than they were normally getting, and the space just makes more sense. They
Yeah.
know how to use it. It's not always about having a ton of people in a place. It's just getting more nights with people.
Yeah.
People don't want to leave. When we
Yeah.
get so many people, they're like, I don't want to leave at 10 o'clock. Can we have till
Yeah.
11? I'm like, absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the cohesion that you're saying is important, and I think it's a skill that is undervalued. I think
Yes.
people think so for example, someone just sent me a link to a cabin that looks just like Cozy Rock somewhere across the country, and I looked at it and it was shocking how many of our details they directly copied,
Oh,
and yet how different it felt. And what that
interesting.
emphasized to me was that you can copy from someone on the internet
Yeah.
80% of what they've done, the paint color, the railing material, the layout, the
Mhm.
island from IKEA, because I have shared all of that stuff online,
Mhm.
and then put the wrong couch or the wrong artwork or the wrong layout of where the coffee table goes, and suddenly
Right.
the whole space feels cheap
Yeah.
potentially or
Mhm.
or amazing in a different way, right? I'm not trying to
Right.
say that anyone who doesn't do the same thing is cheap. This one felt like it kind of ruined it with those 20%. And what that
Mhm.
taught me is I hope they're wildly successful. They're not in our market. Like it's totally fine. I don't care.
Mhm.
But what it emphasized to me is I hired an interior designer for mine because I don't have the skill set to do that. to
Okay.
know that every detail matters, and it emphasized to me how much that is truly an art form and how hard it is. And I think we take that for granted. We're like, "Oh, I can go on Pinterest and find stuff. I can go to Target and find good stuff
Mhm.
and put it together," and you just can't. It's this whole artwork,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, it's definitely that's funny because I didn't know that about especially your cozy rock. I mean, it looks like you did it. Like from like what
Well,
I can tell about
yeah.
you, it kind of looks like you live there.
But that's a great interior designer, though,
I
will
know.
listen to you, and she's so
Yeah.
good that she knew me, and we went through
Hmm.
iterations of mood boards, and then some things I want Rogue on, which she might not be thrilled with, but, like, the tree cookie walls were my like, I wanted to do
Yeah.
that, um, but I think a good interior designer doesn't have to take away from you the personality.
Right.
They have to get to
Mhm.
know you and then find ways to integrate that into the
Well,
space.
it's the thing is people freeze up sometimes with decor.
Yeah,
There's too many choices. There's too many ways to go. I started a blog that I need to pick up again about just like try whatever, see what you like.
yeah,
Look at the clothes that you pull out of your closet every day to wear. Maybe that's what you want to see in a
yeah,
pattern on your couch or whatever it is. It's like
yeah.
it's just it really does paralyze people, the concept of decor. And
Yeah,
I mean, I'm grateful because then they want to use me, but
yeah,
the thing is like it goes back to like you kind of get to know yourself when you
mhm,
have to figure out something that's just in your space on your
yeah,
own,
yeah. If you're dreaming about a cabin build, or are in the midst of a build, or you just bought a place and are getting ready to host for the very first time, regardless of where you are, sometimes you just need a little help along the way. Shared experiences from someone who's been there, advice from someone who's learned a lot of lessons the hard way. That's me. Or a cheerleader as you finish up. All of these reasons are exactly why I started offering cabin consultations to our Instagram followers and friends who could use some specific one on one help. I can't promise to solve all your problems, but I can promise to be transparent about our build costs and process, our organization and project management systems, our favorite and least favorite tools for renting, how we market, and how we found ourselves with almost 80,000 Instagram followers and 100% occupancy in our first year of hosting at Cozy Rock. So if that sounds like it might help you, feel free to visit us at staycozycabin.com or on Instagram at Cozy Rock Cabin and sign up for a time to chat there. Yeah, the
Yeah, I
first
always feel like your
iteration,
dog actually lives at Cozy Rock. I see this. I feel
she would
like,
like to live there as she's making a
yeah,
home right behind
she
us.
looks really good in there. So
Yeah.
nice pictures.
But I remember the first mood board for Cozy Rock, it had no okay, I feel like Maine has several different vibes, and it was
Yes.
tapping more into the nautical Maine vibe, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
not my vibe. I
Yeah.
grew up going to a lake in Maine, in like, inland. I don't like the ocean, I'm scared of sharks, and I get seasick on boats. So, like,
Mm.
nautical
Yeah.
Maine, like, it would have looked beautiful, I'm sure, but it wasn't. I was like, "We
Mhm.
need to channel more woodsy Maine," like,
Mhm.
that kind of Maine. And a good interior designer will listen. You
Yeah.
said in your pre-interview, you said, "If my personality shows in the decor, it feels like the warmest and best way for people to know me and how much I care about how a space feels for them." And so that actually, like, I read that and I was like, that makes design feel almost vulnerable. Like,
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
and it leads you with this question of how much of myself do I put into it? And how much
Mhm.
do I kind of hold close because it's personal? And also,
Mhm.
when thinking about short-term rentals, like, how do you think about that fine line between helping your hosts share their personality and a space that doesn't feel like your own as a renter? Like, you don't want photos of them in it, right? So there's, like, this
Right.
fine
Right.
line. How do you all approach that?
Well, usually what we do just in the first consultation is we go through everything and say, what do you really like in here that you do not want us to take out? I mean,
Yeah.
that is a big,
Yeah.
big deal to people. You cannot insult people like maybe their grandma gave them that coffee table
Yeah.
and it looks a little rough, but you know what? We can work around that.
Yeah.
So we start with a list of what they absolutely love. And they, you know what, our owners come and stay at their properties, so we want them to come and really like see
Yeah.
what the guests see, but also for them to see what they like. So we start with that, but really they give us a lot of free reign to just take in the environment, kind of like what you're talking about. A lake cabin feels very different than, a house on the coast.
Yeah.
And that is where it sort of gets split up. And honestly, Jen and I, we just really like a certain style, so we'll always kind of sneak it in there. Um, but people will ask, "Can you please just like, what would you do? What
Yeah.
if this were your place?
Yeah.
How would you do it?" And I try a lot of crazy things. I've got to say, I do a lot of crazy colors and wallpapers and things like that. But when people come into my home, they're like, "Oh, Kitty lives here for sure."
Yeah.
So,
Should they feel that way though? How many of
they
us have you walked
should,
in and you're like, "I don't know who lives here." It could be in a magazine,
right?
but I don't know who lives here.
Yeah, that is, if I have any issues with design, it's the rules that
Yeah.
people feel like they have to abide by, and you just really, really don't. You really don't have to follow the rules because sometimes they are meant to be broken up.
Okay, Kitty, I
Uh-huh.
hear you on that. I noted that in your pre-interview, but as an avid
Hmm.
rule follower, this is very hard for me, especially as an avid rule follower who isn't instinctively great at design. I like to think I have
Okay.
a great
Okay.
eye and that what I am
Hmm.
drawn to is like, but I think we all have a great eye. We know what we like. So I
Hmm.
guess like all to throw out the rules almost feels intimidating for someone like me. It feels like one,
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I'm going rogue on something that I don't have the skill set to do. So how does one go about intuitive design if we throw out the rule book? Do you have any good advice for people like
Okay,
me?
well, honestly, I'm listening to what you said earlier. You wanted the cookie cutter wall. I'm like, that is you going rogue, and it
Yeah,
works, and you love it.
yeah,
And I will give anyone the opportunity to tell me their like craziest concept, and we could either scale it back or pump it up. Um, but really, what I try to let people understand is like, there isn't the rule book is just, I feel like it's trendy, and
yeah,
trendy is a real trap, especially when you invest so much money and time and learning into making your space.
yeah,
So magazines are incredibly beautiful. I collect all of them and I look for inspiration. But the beauty of having your own space, or having a space you're going to share,
yeah,
is, hey, let's just try something. And like I said earlier, you can most of the time redo it.
yeah.
Short of
Right.
tearing a wall out, or something. But
Even that you can
sometimes
redo
it doesn't work. Yeah, you can redo that. Yeah.
at a cost, but
Mhm. But I really do encourage people to just try it. I had someone contact me the other night about putting a rug under their king size bed, and their room is really small and the door won't open the whole way because it catches on the rug. And she's like, "What the heck am I going to do?" I'm like, "Look, you're going to try these three things. You're going to move the rug around, you're going to get rid of the rug, you're going to try the rug again, move it around, and or tear the door off, for God's sakes." I was like, let's just,
sure.
the door is the problem, obviously.
Not the
um
beautiful rug.
no. So, the thing is, she's like, "Well, I just didn't even think that I could think about this differently." And she's doing something differently. And she's like, "I'll see if it feels
Yeah.
good. And if it doesn't, we'll go back." So, yeah.
And this is where I just feel like interior designers are so helpful because the office I'm in right now, it has this horrible beadboard, which some people love beadboard. I
Yeah.
personally do not love it, and every
Yeah.
room in our house has it. And so
Oh.
you're not gonna be able to see this. Let's see if I can show you. And so she said, "What if you did this pegboard?" Okay, guys, you're gonna wanna
Oh,
watch on YouTube. Let's up those YouTube views. We have like 12
yes,
of them.
yes. Oh,
Um, how do I point to it? So she was
I
like,
see it.
"Why don't we put this pegboard on there, which covers the beadboard and
Hmm.
is super functional and practical because you can put shelves or you can see I have like race medals hung there, but I also have cameras."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would not have like it's easy, I think, to say throughout the rule book, and I love that push. And for someone like you who's instinctively creative, it probably feels easier. But I know there's people listening like me who's like, okay, but without a rule book, what do I do?
Right.
And
Right.
that's where
I
interior designers can help, I think.
Yeah, and honestly, there are plenty of interior designers that are not interior designers that are, I mean, I'm kind of one of them. I didn't go to school for it or anything. Um, Anybody will give you advice.
Yeah.
Anybody will give you inspiration. I mean, I wallpapered over some beadboard.
Interesting. How did it
It's
go?
fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. No one died. I mean, it like was great. Actually, I sort of embraced it because I have an issue with beadboard too, and I made it look like it was intentionally there, and I wallpapered over the top of it. No one knows, except I just told everyone.
That cut out a little bit, so I missed part of that.
Okay, well, I wallpapered over the top of it. Did you hear that part?
Yep.
And literally no one knows that wallpaper is over beadboard, except I just told you all that
Okay.
wallpaper is over my beadboard.
Okay,
So
but see, Kitty, I didn't think about that on my own, but now I'm like, because I have, like, 4 other rooms that I'm trying to solve. One of
mhm.
them we plastered over to try that, and then
Yeah.
now maybe I try wallpaper and
I
what.
did like a shaker. I do these shaker boards and put hooks
Mhm.
on them because I like to hook things. My husband does not like using a closet, so I put a shaker board and hooks. He hangs all of his clothes
Hooks
on the
are game
hooks.
changing.
It's all good. And this is a laundry room, and I just put a shaker board up with some hooks. The bottom is painted, the beadboard, the top is wallpapered. Everyone thinks I just put that all together, and I didn't. I just couldn't stand the beadboard, and I distracted everyone with
Yes.
the wallpaper. So
I also I'm gonna
I
use
do like
some of these
pegboard
ideas.
though. Pegboard is cool.
Oh
That's
my
Julia
god.
Child, like original stuff. So yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear because I thought it was becoming trendy, and I've done it here, and I wanna do it
Uh,
everywhere now because it's like you
it's
can't see it
very
from
old
these whole
school.
walls. I have shelves, I have lights hung up. It's so practical. I love it, though my
It
interior designer
is. It
would kill me
is.
because look at this light right here. That's Janice not knowing what she's doing.
It's
Just throwing her
okay.
lights.
Come
That
on,
one,
hey,
though
you got to stand by it. Stand by your decision. It's
see
fine.
that one? Antique
Yeah.
Mall in Freeport. Yeah, that
Oh,
one's a
that's
win.
cute. Actually,
But
I
of
love
course
a
I
good
sent
amber light.
right? I sent 4 pictures to
Hmm.
my interior designer before I bought it to make sure I had approval because I don't trust that I will know how to put a room
Yourself.
together.
Well,
I
that's
trust
okay. You
that I
gotta
know what
have
I
a
like.
buddy. You gotta have a buddy
That's right.
in something. Yes. No.
That's right.
Jen is my buddy. When we're like, is this crazy? Should we do this? Yeah, you gotta bounce something off of it.
Which
It's not. There's no isolation in this process. It's like
yeah.
you really do have to bounce it off of people. So.
Which I also think in the short-term rental world is one thing that Instagram has done really well for all the
Hmm.
downfalls in the different
Hmm.
niches on social media. I feel like it took a very isolating world for a lot of us. We were doing it as like a
Hmm.
second job or a side hustle or hobby or passive income, if you want to call it that. And Instagram, at least those of us who decided to market on Instagram, it kind of started bringing us all together. Are you
Yeah.
seeing that because you market that way and you
Yeah.
interact with a lot of hosts? Are you seeing that community start to come together, especially within Maine?
Absolutely. I mean, especially this year, it's a little tricky politically, if you know what I mean. And we're all sort of watching the calendar, maybe not fill up super fast, a little slow, last minute bookings instead of like, I'm going to make sure I get that place for all week in July.
Yep.
And we have to answer to the owners that are holding the mortgage. And so
Yeah.
they're like, how are we doing? And honestly, the community that we all have with each other, and the Hideaway guys are some very close friends of ours. They are our benchmark for if the inns are having issues booking because they are right in town. They are in the
Yeah.
middle of everything, and
Yeah.
their place is incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
That gives us a guide
Yeah.
of we all bounce off of like pricing and what are you doing? How like Jen and I are going to do a Mother's Day special and a Memorial Day special because we aren't seeing,
Which is
the instant
crazy.
bookings. I know. I
We had
know.
Easter weekend sit open at one of our cabins. That is
Yeah.
never weekends have never sat open. This is in the mountains of North Carolina. But I just
Hmm.
waited. I was like, "No, it's gonna book. It's gonna book." A long weekend just sat empty. I
Yeah.
could not believe it.
Yeah. We're gonna do some cool themed promotions just to try and get because listen, I think everyone is just nervous,
Yeah.
and vacationing is expensive.
Mhm.
There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this community is amazing. No one's competing with each other. We're all trying to help each other.
Right. Right, and
Yeah.
there's enough people, especially in the summer, but there's enough people coming to Maine And
Mhm.
I like the idea that if we're all creating something a little different, we can actually serve the same people on different
For
trips
sure.
and create
Yeah.
I remember when I first dreamed about building a place in Maine because that's where my family was. I was like, "But I don't really know the market there. Like, do
Mhm.
people come in the off season?" So I went through and looked at every Freeport Airbnb and I rated it on a scale. And it was just 1, 2, and 3. And it was like, 1, would I stay here? How did
Mhm.
I? Now I'm forgetting the scale. All I know is that at the top of the scale was I would travel here for this Airbnb, and I call them unicorn
Yeah.
properties.
Yeah.
And there were 0 in Freeport at the time, and so I was like, "Well, there's the niche to
That's your market
serve."
research right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was like, "Okay, well, if we create something that, like, it doesn't matter where it is, people will wanna come," that feeling creates community because it's not a
Mhm.
scarcity mindset. It's like "Oh, I'm gonna create something unique and special," and there are more of them now in Freeport. I love that.
Mhm.
There are places I can send folks if we're booked,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
then people can have different experiences because you're giving them a unique experience, not just a place to, like, lay down at night.
And honestly, I mean, we had a situation where a guest really wanted to stay for the whole week, but we had this break in the middle that someone had booked. And they wanted, she's like, should we just book again for the day after they leave? We're like, you know what? We have a place for you to go for these 2 nights that
Yeah.
you're going to absolutely love. And it'll give you another perspective on the area
Yes.
and
Mm.
send them to them. And we all have to fill in the holes. And it gets people more into our town
Yeah.
too, to see, the different areas to stay. She was thrilled to just
Yeah.
have those options.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love that you described it as I'm gonna give them a different perspective because that's
Mm-hmm.
the joy to me of Airbnb, going back to its roots, is like it's not
Mm-hmm.
even just about the beautifully designed space, it's about the
Right.
human who is creating the
Hmm.
experience for you. And
Right.
our guest book, I spent so much time on it because I was like, I'm not gonna be here. This is how I'll show you the Freeport that I know and love. But if you stay at a different Freeport Airbnb, they probably know of things that I don't know of yet,
Yeah.
and you'll get a
Yeah.
different perspective on the town.
Yeah, Jen and I were really bouncing around the idea of doing some more concierge type stuff. Like,
Yeah.
does if the owner is okay with like dropping off some champagne or want local wine, or I mean, we've got this great bakery in town, like just getting people to know, hey, you know what, this is in our town and
Yeah.
it's a small business. And this is what it is an example of their, baked goods or whatever. It's a labor that I don't know if we're really ready to take on,
I
but
know, it's a lot more work.
yeah, we got a bunch of teenagers between us, and I'm like, maybe the teenagers could do it, but it's still just sort of something that we're not the only place,
Yeah.
I just like what you were saying, like, I just want everyone to know you're one of our places in hope. I'm like, if you just go 10 minutes in another direction, you're in another cool town that you're
Right.
going to absolutely love. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we
So,
just booked a honeymoon for a past guest where one of their first in their first year of dating, they had come to Cozy Rock the year that we opened. They're like, "Now we're
hmm
getting married, we wanna come back for our honeymoon," and I was like, "I'll absolutely open the dates for you." Then I looked at my calendar and someone had snuck in 2 years ago because I hadn't blocked the calendar that far out,
whoa.
and I was like, "Oh, no, I can only host you for, like, 5 of those days." But now I have the fun challenge. I said, "But if you're up for it, I'd like to find you another place to stay." And so now I
Yeah.
get to, like, look around at all the other places, and I'm kind of really excited for them to stay with us, but then have a different perspective on the same area,
hmm
maybe even one town over, because then you can see what's there. And it is that, like, I'm sharing a place that I love, the
hmm
town, not just the
Yeah.
cabin
No.
with other people.
Well, all the money funnels back in to
That's
the
right.
town, so it's really just good to have them here.
Yeah. And that's why I
Mhm.
felt like if I build an Airbnb in Freeport that people travel for the Airbnb, then they
Mhm.
fall in love with Maine, they frequent the businesses in the area, they come back, maybe not to Freeport, but to another place in Maine, and, like, that's good for
Mhm.
the state in general if it's a place that we love.
Exactly. No,
Why would you not want that?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and we need the year-round thing. I mean, Jen and I are always we're open with all of ours all year round, and
Yep.
and you know, the owners are usually like, "Really, are we gonna get winter?" You can't even believe. I mean, people come here in the
Yeah.
wintertime. It's a magical place in the
Oh my
wintertime. You
gosh.
can
It's
ski, you can do all these things.
I
The
agree.
toboggan deal is right by us. So like, wait until you see that crazy show.
Mhm. I've never
But
seen that.
honestly, oh yeah, you gotta come next year. Come and stay with us. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be good.
Winter
Yeah,
is my favorite time to be in Maine, and
me too.
I think it's the best cabin season. In the summer,
Hmm.
there's too much to do in the area, that you leave and you're like, "This was amazing, but, like, I didn't actually get to hang out in the cabin that much." And in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
winter, you can go cross country skiing, but it's dark by, like, 3:30, so you're gonna be home probably cooking in
Yeah.
the kitchen,
Snugging
going in the
up to
hot
the
tub.
fire. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's
Yes.
the
So,
best cabin season.
yes, I do
Um,
too.
do you know Courtney and Patrick of the Maine A-Frame? They're up in
Oh, I do
Bethel.
follow them on
Yeah,
Instagram.
they're
Yeah.
lovely, and
Yeah.
they just launched this winter, like, curated ice fishing experiences
Oh my
because one of their places
gosh.
is right on the water, and I love, to your point about curated experiences, to
Mm-hmm.
help people see what's great about Maine in the winter. It can be
Mm-hmm.
intimidating to think about ice fishing, so let me show you. Let us
Yeah.
introduce you to this experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like just give them all sorts of treats. Like Jen and I really love to leave like buckets of, s'more makings and like local chocolate. We just like to give them treats that they
Yeah,
maybe don't think of. And that's really smart.
yeah,
The ice fishing thing.
yeah,
I'm kind of scared of ice
me
fishing. I
too.
don't really know about walking on ice, but
I'm very scared of it, it's not for
I
me.
don't have to go. Yeah,
That's right. Cross country
exactly.
skiing, snowshoeing, yep, I'll do any of those,
Yeah.
but ice
Walking the
fishing.
dogs in the snow, I'll do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes, ice
Hmm.
fishing, agreed. I've heard too many horror stories of people going through.
Yeah, that's a real like it's yeah, yeah,
But
too
again,
scary.
another point in the favor of curation, like
Hmm.
curating an experience, because then you have a guide who's like, "I'm not gonna take you out if it's not safe. I know that it's safe."
Yes, yeah.
And
And
that
there are a
feels
lot of people that are professional guides here. I mean, the kids are all learning how to do it at the trade school here. There's a bunch of them that are learning to
yeah,
be professional guides. I'm like, how cool is that? Yeah.
it's so cool. I love that
Hmm.
about Maine. The people there are just, I feel like, so approachable. Okay, we have 5 minutes left. I can't believe
Okay.
it happened.
Okay.
I wanna ask you, because you do the hosting at some of these properties too, right? You do
Hmm.
all of it for them.
We do
So
the whole thing.
yeah,
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, it's sort of part of our package to do
amazing.
the refresh and then do the managing. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Just in Mid-Coast, I'm assuming you can't really do this
Mhm.
remotely, or could you? Too hard.
No, we were approached for a place in Colorado, but I think we were just like, look, we'll do the refresh, but we have our hands on every single property.
Yeah,
We just have to make sure it's really, really good.
yeah.
So that would be too hard for us, I think.
Okay, that makes sense. I wanna ask you about a couple hot topics, just
Okay.
real quick, like 1 minute each. I wanna get your
Yeah.
stance on them. I love thinking about these things. Okay, I'm gonna start with the most controversial,
Mm.
labels in a short-term rental. What do you think?
Labels. Tell me, what do you mean
Are you
labels?
pro or con labels on light switches, drawers, shelves?
Yeah, no, I don't
Yeah.
think so.
If you couldn't see that, that was an adamant no. So she's on Team Janice.
Yeah, I just feel like we're gonna make it so you'll know it's there, like
There
a
you go.
light switch.
There you go. Okay.
But no, I know what you mean. Yeah, we don't really have any writing anywhere.
Yeah. Okay, direct booking. Do you use direct booking for
Uh,
years?
we do. Jen is mostly like she's the back end at the Airbnb, but um, yes, yes. To answer your question, we do it. Yeah.
Okay. Dog friendly. Okay, let's say
Oh,
pet
yeah.
friendly. You
We
are?
do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that. And sometimes it's really a terrible decision. But honestly, I have pets, Jen has pets. I would always appreciate when I could bring my pets. And I
Yeah,
find that 99% of the people are incredibly respectful.
agreed.
We give them ways to kind of keep it clean. And, we have certain blankets if they want to sit on the couch, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super
Mhm.
smart. Just a basket full of goodies that will make them feel cared for. The dog's cared for in the
We
same way
want
as the human.
yeah, and we want oh yeah, we have these cute snacks for the dogs and the nice dog beds, but we want every opportunity to get a booking, and
Yeah.
we don't want to really turn anybody away. So.
Yes, especially in
Mhm.
off-season Maine, I feel like. I would
Yeah,
be pro
yeah,
dog anyway, but in off-season Maine, it's
yeah,
like, don't say no to dogs, in my opinion.
yeah. I agree.
Um, short-term rental Facebook groups.
Okay, I gotta tell you, me and Facebook.
Oh, you're
It
not
just
on Facebook
isn't a
at all.
thing. Yeah, I mean, I have a profile on there, but and I sell things on Marketplace, but I definitely I don't go there. I have found in the past that it just isn't as nice as I want it to be. So in my 53 years, I don't want to deal with not nice people anymore. So
That is a good boundary to draw.
it's fine,
Yep.
you know.
Cameras. Okay, we have to change this one because Airbnb changed their policy. So outdoor cameras. What are your thoughts on them?
We don't have any. We have
Mm.
a listing coming on, and they have them all over the place. But it's mostly because they are not in their home very often. So they live in the main part of the house, and there's a basement apartment that we just renovated, really cute, by the Snow Bowl in Camden. And we're delicately like taking that out of this
Yeah.
scenario, so that they feel safe. We're keeping an eye on the whole property. We only manage the Airbnb piece, but
Yeah.
they trust us now that we are keeping an eye on things. But
Yeah.
people they don't appreciate that. And honestly, it reminds me of Silicon Valley, and everyone is watching everybody, and it's really unnerving,
I know.
so.
I know.
Mhm.
It is a slippery slope to feeling like you have the right to see and know about everything they're doing at your house.
Right.
And it's tempting, I
Yeah.
get it. But
Hmm. But isn't that the piece that's like, if you're willing to short-term rental your property, then you're willing to give up a little piece of that. Like, you're letting someone use it, let them freely enjoy
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
so.
But I think that's the learning curve I find of like a first year host versus someone who's been doing it for 5 plus
Hmm.
years is like at the
And
beginning.
burned. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, no, I was gonna say the opposite.
Oh,
I
okay.
actually think that the assumptions are worse when it's the unknown, and the more you do it and the more you realize, like, your numbers I think are right on, that 99% of dog owners are great guests, then the less
Yeah.
worried you get about dog owners, and you're like, "Okay, I'll take the one dirty stay every year
Yeah.
in favor of the
Mhm.
50 non-dirty ones."
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm not naive. I'm too old for that, but I really trust people, and I try to get
Yeah,
our owners to just trust us. If you trust
yeah,
us, everything's going to be okay.
yeah. I
So.
do think I've come to believe I've, like, written down some thoughts on hosting over the last couple of years, and I find that almost all of them come back to mindset. And sure, you
Mhm.
can learn how to create automated systems or which booking platform is the best, but, like, that's
Mhm.
actually not as valuable as how
Yeah.
you approach it. And I think this is a big one of, are you thinking about it as "Don't fuck up my house" versus "Let me create an amazing experience for you," right? Those
Mhm.
are 2 very different mindsets that can play
Yeah, one
into.
is very welcoming and one is not, honestly. And we're just trying to shoot for, like, let's welcome people in. We're going
Right.
to make it really nice for them so they want to come back or tell other people about it. And we just get the nicest reviews. It's
Yeah.
so
People can tell.
satisfying. Yeah. Yeah.
All the small
So.
decisions you make are gonna be a reflection
Mhm.
of which of those camps you're on. Even cameras. We have a camera on Cozy Rock only on the front, and we make it very
Yeah.
clear. It's so we can monitor the snow to make sure that it's cleared in time for you. It isn't
Interesting.
we're not
Yeah.
watching
Okay.
anything you do, but I live in North Carolina, and I
Yeah.
wish snow plow people were more reliable than they are, but we
I
learned
know.
the hard way that if we're not watching and texting you and saying, "When are you gonna be there?" then we can't
Hmm.
guarantee you can get out. And so even just how you communicate that, it's like, I'm not looking if you have extra guests or an extra
Extra
dog.
dogs and
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure you have a smooth experience.
Yeah, and that it's all about just communicating that to them, though. I
Yeah,
mean, right? Like, if they don't hear anything and they're like, "Oh no, where else is a camera?" I mean, obviously that's illegal to have, but it just sets up already a relationship that's not very fun.
right,
So,
you don't
or
trust me.
welcoming.
You're waiting for
Yeah,
me to mess something up, and you wanna make
yeah,
sure that I
yeah,
don't. Yeah, it's so different.
yeah.
Kitty, this has been great.
I really was looking forward to this, so it was super, super fun.
Thanks so much for joining us, and if you liked what you heard, feel free to leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or share some of your favorite parts over on Apple Podcast. If you have feedback or suggestions for the future, you can also find me on Instagram at Cozy Rock Cabin. Looking forward to next week.